Bienvenue in Montreal. And now that I've exhausted my French, we'll welcome you to the second and final round of qualifying. For round 13 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002, this is the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal on the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home for a quarter of a century to the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. Now welcoming the Champ Cars. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Barsha. The forecasts of bad weather for today's final round of qualifying have happily proven to be erroneous. We have beautiful conditions once again as we get set for the all-important final round of qualifying to set the grid for Sunday's race. As always, we'll begin in the pit lane with Derek Daly.
And Bob, you mentioned earlier the name Gilles Villeneuve. Just about everybody here still remembers the day in 1978 when Gilles Villeneuve won the Grand Prix here. And in fact, ever since then, we have seen tremendous Canadian support for Kart Champ Car events, as we saw in Vancouver and Toronto. But yesterday, we saw something very unusual. We realized there were Canadians, and then there were French Canadians. When Patrick Carpentier or Alex Tagliani came into the pit lane, they got all sorts of cheers and support. When Paul Tracy came in, it just wasn't the same. In fact, it was lukewarm at times, because they believe, even though Paul Tracy is from Toronto, as far as they're concerned, the French Canadians, he's from somewhere else. But great support for the two local boys here. Calvin?
Double D, that support is really a double-edged sword. And the other side of things is, of course, pressure. Take the case of Alex Tagliani. Everywhere he goes this weekend, he's surrounded by fans and media alike. And even last evening, he launched his own new clothing line. Maybe it was the pressure that got to Tag yesterday. In qualifying, he went off, made the mistake, got into the tyre barrier. That monocoque is now out of action. The suspension and front wing came back into the tub, damaged it beyond repair for this weekend. They switched to the backup car this morning. Big problems once again. Only 15th fastest. Engine had to be changed after the session. Gearbox issues. The handling is not right. So, can the players, boys, pull another rabbit out of their hat? Well, if Alex Tagliani can pull the trick off this afternoon, watch for this crowd to go ballistic once again. Now let's go down to Scott Pruitt.
Thanks, Calvin. When the fans talk, I hope you're hearing me. When the fans talk, Kart listens. And with that, I'm dead.
All right, I apologize, Scott. We'll get right on that. I know what you wanted the fans to know about were the new qualifying orders. We'll have a 15-minute practice followed by a 10-minute downtime in which the teams can work on their cars, followed by 35 minutes of hot lapping to set the grid. And how important is that grid? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Now, Calvin Fish mentioned that Alex Tagliani is starting from square one. He's not alone. Adrian Fernandez damaged his chassis this morning. The team has decided they cannot fix it. They'll go to the backup. He sacrifices yesterday's place on the grid and will also start from 0.00. Here's a look at our coverage, the balance of the day. The Toyota Atlantic Championship title is on the line for 2002. You can watch that race live from right here in Montreal at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And be sure to join us tomorrow for the inaugural running of the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal, live beginning at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time with our pre-race show, with the race flagging off shortly after 2 p.m. Eastern. So what will the story be today for the darlings of this Canadian crowd? The Quebec flag waves proudly. Will Patrick Carpentier, Alex Tagliani, perhaps the thrill from West Hill in Toronto, Paul Tracy, do them proud? It all ended rather badly yesterday. They'll hope to do better today. Series is brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. By Bridgestone, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. And by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. Welcome back to a beautiful, breezy day in the second largest French-speaking city in all the world, Montreal, home of the Canadian Grand Prix for 25 years, but for the first time this year, welcoming the Champ Cars. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Tommy Kendall. Tommy, we've been living large with the weather this year, but it's especially important today that we have sunny skies, because after what happened yesterday, a lot of guys out there are going to need this session to try to hoist themselves up on that grid.
Yeah, especially those guys that had problems. Now, qualifying has always been important in Champ Car racing, but with the level of competition and the new fuel windows, it's become even more important. How much more so? Take a look at this. If you throw out the first two races when guys were coming to grips with the new fuel strategies, The average starting position of winners has been 1.7, with the furthest back a winner has come, third. So what that means, while after qualifying there was no guarantee where you were going to finish, but if you didn't qualify up front, it's almost a guarantee where you weren't going to finish, namely P1. With that in mind, it's easy to understand why the qualifying has been so intense and supercharged with emotion this year. Don't expect today to be any different.
And of course, we've got those new qualifying rules that limit the green flag time to a maximum of 35 minutes to get in your 15 timed laps. Here's a look at the track map.
Now, this is the exact same circuit that the F1 cars ran on here in June. And the story here is how do you get stopped for the chicane complexes and putting the power down coming back. Turn 1 and 2, a long, tight left-hander with a long right-hand hairpin. 3-4, a quick right left, a flat-out fifth gear or flat-out corner, turn 5, a quick left-right, 6-7, and again 8-9. Down to the hairpin, increasing radius, so the guy's having trouble fighting the traction control, bringing them back a long straightaway, turn 12 and 13. Guys, liberal use of the curbs through there, but really important to a quick lap. Now, this is some footage from the 12 and 13 complex. Now, notice on the exit there, you've got the red and white rumble strip, but you also have the green section. The green section is actually kind of a concrete patchwork. You see Oriole Survey getting big time crossed up. And they were actually tearing up chunks of that concrete lattice. So this morning, if you notice, it has been replaced with concrete. So while a few guys got out on there yesterday, you'll see more and more guys going out. Jimmy Vassar using every square inch available. Now, to show how quickly things change, Scott Dixon yesterday, who was second, was out in both cars today, had trouble big off. There's a good view at the kind of buckboard effect under braking. And even D'Amata is not immune to this. You see the car bouncing a little bit. That was an out lap, so he didn't have a lot of temperature. Paul Tracy put in a real screamer, just bombing over, straddling both of those curbs in 12 and 13. Bumped into the top of the time charge with just a few seconds left. Acknowledged the crowd, but then D'Amata bumped back with just seconds to go by about a tenth of a second.
Yesterday in first round qualifying, 4 drivers broke into the 1 minute 19 second zone. We had 8 in that quick category this morning, and we expect to get down into the 18s today. We'll talk more about how those times compare with what the Formula One Grand Prix cars did back in June. But look back there in 18 and 19. There is Scott Dixon from Target Chip Ganassi Racing, who was second quick yesterday. Of course, we expect everybody to go faster today. So even though Cristiano D'Amata has that guaranteed spot on the front row, virtually every other spot on the grid is up for grabs, and we expect a big change in the starting order today. Now, we're just moments away from seeing cars on track, but just up the St. Lawrence River here in Quebec is the spiritual home of the Villeneuve family, and that, of course, means of Formula One fans everywhere. There is a museum in the town of Berthierville. Jacques Villeneuve, the son, Gilles Villeneuve, the father, and Jacques Villeneuve, the uncle, all represented. It's really an amazing display of race cars over the years. From Formula Atlantic, Formula Ford, Champ cars. And it is really worth a stop. If you're ever in this part of the world, go to Berthierville and visit the Villeneuve Family Museum. If you're a motorsports fan, there is little better in the world. We'll take a break and return with more. There's little Jacques sticking his lip out en route to being a world champion. Welcome back to Montreal on the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. Coming up tonight, Speed News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll get you caught up on the weekend in motor racing thus far. And then on Sunday night on Speed Channel, 2 30-minute segments. The first, the NASCAR edition of Speed News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, followed at 7:30 by news and highlights from around the rest of the racing world. So join us here on Speed Channel for Speed News Saturday and Sunday nights at 7. Now, there's been a persistent rumor here in the Kart FedEx Championship Series that another prominent Canadian may make a return to the sport next year. A week ago, Peter Windsor, our Formula One pit reporter, spoke with Jacques Villeneuve about that rumor. Here's what he said.
Probably a ridiculous rumor, but I wonder if you could just tell our viewers in the States what your thoughts are about your career, Formula One. Obviously, you're committed to it, but also this talk about possibly going back into Champ Car.
It's mainly a rumor. Because there hasn't been a proposition made anyway. It's just talk in the air. Coming to F1 was a step up for me. Racing in the States, open wheel racing, has been a little bit destroyed when IRL separated and the two series, and they they both lost a lot of how good open wheel racing was in the States. So going back to the States would require a very good contextual reason.
But you look at the races on TV at all now and think, maybe it'd be quite fun to be doing that?
No, it doesn't matter what you're racing. It doesn't matter what series, what level of racing. You get into it and you just have to do the best and to win. And there's very good drivers there as well. It's just different. You're always happier with where you are, basically.
And your situation for next year?
I've had a contract for 3 years, and the only way to change it would be to get something better in some other way.
Thanks very much.
Well, it may be a rumor, but it sure is a good one.
There's obviously a little bit to it, or he would have just blown it off, I think.
Absolutely. There's Christian Fittipaldi. You got to look at the grandstands filled once again. I know we've gone on and on about it, but it is absolutely phenomenal the way the Canadian race fans have supported Champ Car racing. And this inaugural event is getting off to an absolutely spectacular start. Beautiful day again. I'd say temperatures right about 80 degrees. We have a light breeze blowing in the drivers' faces down the start-finish straightaway. Momentarily, that man, Alex Tagliani, and colleagues will be on track. Here's how the new qualifying sessions break down on the road courses in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. It's still a 60-minute session, but the first 15 minutes is an open practice. Use whatever tires you want, no lap limit, run as much or as little as you like. Then a 10-minute break in which no cars are on track, but the cars may be worked on. And then the final 35 minutes is qualifying. A 15-lap timed maximum per driver with 30 minutes of guaranteed green flag time and the usual rules in place regarding a red flag, which could make our show run a little long today. We'll have to wait and find out. But no matter what, it is fun to watch. My picture did a lot for the pace of the old ticker. Cristiano Namada is in car, ready to go. So is Alex Tagliani, if I'm not mistaken. We'll be right back to Montreal. Live to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the Ile Notre Dame in the St. Lawrence River across from downtown Montreal. Cars are now on track for the 15-minute open practice session that will precede the timed qualifying. This is down in the center turn, turn 2. You see that solid white line that leads to about mid-corner. When exiting the pits under race conditions, the drivers will have to keep all 4 wheels to the left of that line or risk a penalty. On board with Paul Tracy, now on board with Alex Tagliani.
The reason for that is if you came out of the pits right behind somebody else, the tendency would be to just try to turn it right, shortcut that corner, try to get around the guy in front of you, but obviously that presents a problem if there's cars coming on track. So Paul Tracy got a warning on that yesterday, but that will be enforced during the race.
Let's get to Calvin Fish.
Well, Alex Tagliani really can't catch a break. He made it for this session by a couple of seconds only. They had problems with his radio communication with his helmet to the car. They didn't think they were going to get it straightened out. And it's not a big thing, but it just adds to the pressure. A lot of pressure on him out here this afternoon, and he's really stressed. Patrick, on the other hand, was just down here, nice, calm, and cool and collected. Waited 10 minutes to get in the car. He was ready to roll. Alex, a different story. Let's go down to Scott for another story on one of the Canadians.
Following up on Paul Tracy, a dismal day yesterday, breaking a shift lever, which ended his day sooner than he'd like. Did not go to the backup car because it was too different than the primary car. From yesterday to today, a number of changes, biggest being they added more downforce. Paul was very happy with the car. Second quick this morning, going into the qualifying, having a little bit of issue mid-exit, a little bit too much push to the car. I'm sitting right in front of Paul's pit right now. He just pulled up in front of me. And for Cristiano Namada, just a few small changes. He's very happy with the car, but they want to do just a little work on the shocks, just to get that little extra fine tune. Very, very pleased with the overall setup. Derek?
Scott, tomorrow we go into race 13 of this long championship season, and I have yet to see real consistency from any of these teams, including Newman Haas with Cristiano Namada. It's a feast or famine with championship points for them. So as this championship goes along, these qualifying sessions get increased importance because, as our Cristiano's bonus point yesterday for provisional pole, he now has 17 bonus points, I believe, in this championship, and that may tell the tale as we get towards the end of the season. Bob?
And 17 points is one better than a second place race finish. So you can see just how dominating Namada has been.
Derek says it's been feast or famine. I want to say they haven't missed too many meals. I mean, those guys have been taking seconds.
Well, look at those numbers. Cristiano Damata, 144 points, including his provisional pole point yesterday. 6 victories on the season, and a 43-point lead over a tie for second between Bruno Junqueira and Patrick Carpentier. Looking to add to that total today. There's Paul Tracy in the pits. He was phenomenal in the practice at a 1 minute 19.441 second effort. He and Cristiano Damata both quicker than Damata's provisional pole time yesterday in this morning's session. Scott Pruitt.
Another quick update on PT. They had to change the engine after this morning. This was not a planned change. Just got done talking to the crew. They had some sort of problem with the Honda engine. So they had to, yes, they did change the engine between this morning and qualifying. He came in, went out and did a quick lap, installation lap, and now he's heading right back out. Calvin?
Issues, Scott. Tony Kanaan had a similar issue with his Honda engine this morning, and he just couldn't believe it. Right at the end of the session, he heard a strange noise in the back end. They had to switch out another Honda motor. So this team in particular has really struggled here in Elkhart Lake with engine problems. But Tony heads out for another run here, try and get a balance on the race car. Quick change on the front suspension to the right for Kanaan and the Pioneer team.
To address what Calvin said about Tagliani, on this kind of a weekend, often your only rest and peace is inside the race car. And so in situations like this, I used to always like to get into the car early and you could gather your thoughts. The car not getting out there robs him of that opportunity. And now you compare the two teammates personality-wise, and Alex is a little more tightly wound than Patrick. So be interesting to see how Alex responds to this.
There is Alex. Checking the timing and scoring monitor. He's currently third at a 122.9, but we're going to see those times dropping quickly as this track continues to rubber in. They're going to get quicker and quicker. Will we see our first lap in the 118s? We'll see. Well, beautiful day in Montreal, Quebec, Canada for the final round of qualifying. Round 13 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Now, I know the graphic just said practice because that's what we're doing right now under Kart's new road course qualifying rules. We have roughly 3 3/4 minutes still to go in this opening practice before 10 minutes of break and then 35 minutes of qualifying. Of course, the natural inclination of fans is to compare the Formula One Grand Prix cars that have raced here for 25 years with the Champ Car machinery. Here's a good look at some of the important technical differences, DK.
Yeah, the main one there is the weight. That affects every single thing a race car does: accelerating, heat in the brakes, tire temperature, how soft you can run the compounds, all those things. So the weight is just a huge, huge issue. The carbon fiber brakes, that's another pretty substantial difference as well. But it's been interesting. The drivers themselves, the Champ Car guys, have been real curious. They were very surprised that they ran as well as they did. Cristiano Damata was very proud of his engineers to get the package so right, but to be so close. And last night at dinner, Paul Tracy pointed something out. The pole here in 2000 with Michael Schumacher, before they shortened the hairpin by 30 meters and before the tire war started, was an 18.4. This year it was a 12.8. So they've gained all that time primarily due to the tire war. And so in that situation, you had the back of the field was well into the 22nd range. So again, the Champ Car guys, they're thinking about it as much as the fans are, and they're proud of how they're doing.
Of course, another key difference, the fact that the Formula One cars run on gasoline, the Champ cars on methanol. Let's go down to Scott Pruitt.
Currently, our second place sitter, Scott Dixon, is in here, had problems this morning, had an engine failure, and more problems right now. As you can see, going to work, some sort of transmission problem. They aren't sure what it is, having a problem shifting second to third, but they're taking a good hard look. You know, this is one of those issues where you talk about that 15 minutes coming in handy. For these guys right now, it's coming in very handy. Guys?
All right, thanks very much, Scott. Times continue to tumble. We just heard a cheer from the grandstand. That's because Patrick Carpentier has just gone to the top of the charts at 1 minute 20.097 seconds. Alex Tagliani, his teammate, and another big crowd darling, was up there just a few moments ago. He is now third at 120.330. The two French-Canadians sandwiching Dario Franchitti, who's coming alive. He was having lots of problems this morning in the practice. He is now second at 120.328. Calvin Fish.
Well, Dario will be happy to be second right now, but he's really been scratching his head along with the engineering team as to why he doesn't have any straightaway speed. He's running a lot less wing. He doesn't have a gurney on the rear wing here. PT does, and he's still about 2 miles an hour down on Paul Tracy here this weekend. And they had a similar problem at Elkhart Lake as well. Now, they have different engines in the car, so it's not an engine-specific problem. They think it might be something in the chassis, but unable to identify the problem. But Dario is not a happy camper when he sees that on the data. Let's go down to Derek.
Calvin, I just want to give you an example of a team really doing their homework and giving attention to detail. Because this pit wall here is raised so much because of Formula One regulations, you cannot see a Champ car go by unless it has an onboard camera on the roll bar. Newman Haas does not have an onboard camera on Cristiano D'Amato, so they simply made this carbon flag here, which they can now easily identify their car as going by. They learned that little trick, believe it or not, from the streets of Houston several years ago.
But you just wait, Derek. I bet beginning with the next race, we'll see lots of those little numbers up there on top of the roll bar. Nobody's going to let anything get by. This is Christian Fittipaldi. He's got the onboard camera at Newman Haas this weekend on the Lily car. There's the new concrete patch at turn 13.
I was just going to say that big old number 6 looks very Winston Cup, doesn't it?
This is the Senna corner.
Get a good look at how Christian is using the curbs.
Session has now been checkered, so Christian will be heading for the pit lane. Drove this track 3 times in Formula One machinery. Right now, Paul Tracy and Patrick Carpentier are 1 and 2. Alex Tagliani is 4th. So at this point in the afternoon, this big Canadian crowd has got a lot to cheer for. Here's PT.
This is coming back to the final complex. Checking his mirrors. You see the head going side to side.
Top speed in excess of 190 miles an hour on that straightaway. He heads for the pit lane. The pit lane speed limit was 35 miles an hour yesterday. Officials have decided that the safety margin is such they have raised it to the now traditional 50 miles per hour. Paul coasts to a stop. So the 15 minutes of practice are now over. We'll have 10 minutes of work on the cars before we send them out to qualify. Mario Andretti talking things over with Michael. Speed Channel's live coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. By Circuit City, we know the excitement you feel about the latest digital toys. That's why we're here. Circuit City, we're with you. And by Porsche, what only a Porsche brings to driving. Welcome back. We're just minutes away from final qualifying here at the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Let's go to Scott Pruitt.
A quick update on Paul Tracy, quickest in this first session. He said the car's actually quite good, but it's taking too long to come in. And what he means by that, the pressures of the Bridgestone tires, trying to get them up to that perfect temperature and their perfect pressure at the same time. What they're doing is he's not quite happy. He feels like they need to come up in pressure a little bit so he can get that second and third goodie lap out of the tires. Right now, it's not till 4th or 5th lap. So he's having a long discussion with his engineer, Steve Chalice, about what they're going to do. Derek?
Thank you, Scott. Dario Franchitti here talking to Alan McDonald, Kyle Moyer, and of course Barry Green in the middle here. Dario, the chart looks good reasonably now, but I can tell in your face you might like some more time to maybe work a little bit more on the car.
Yeah, we've been struggling all weekend with the car. Yesterday in qualifying was particularly bad. We've certainly made improvements today. I just don't know how good we're going to stack up against everybody else at the moment. But we've certainly made it better. But I don't know if we've, as you say, I think more time might certainly help us.
Dario, we see pictures of cars crashing over the curbs. Is an aggressive style or a rough style over these curbs, does it reward anything in any way?
No, I think if you're too aggressive, you just end up overdriving the car. You have to be smooth. It looks quite aggressive. It feels kind of aggressive inside, but at the same time, your style has to be smooth. Really, you got to get the car right over these curbs, and that I think is one of the places we're struggling this weekend. When we hit the curb, the car wants to jump as opposed to just driving over it. It wants to jump off the curb, and we're losing grip that way. So we're still trying to fix that out.
Thank you, Dario. Best of luck. Bob, can you tell the frustration in Dario's voice? I think you can.
You can see it in his body language, Derek, just shaking his head. He seems calm, but very discouraged.
A little too calm, just a little drop in overall energy. And it's just, this is his kind of circuit with a very, very hard braking, finesse, carrying speed into all those complexes. This is the kind of place you would expect him to shine.
Montreal becomes the 4th Canadian city to host kart-related racing. Of course, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and Trois-Rivières just up the road here in Quebec. Tonight you can catch the Speed World Challenge from Trois-Rivières, the GT class at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Speed Channel. And later tonight, of course, our stage-by-stage coverage of the FIA World Rally Championship. This weekend, it's the Rally Germany. Catch the action from Leg 2 tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Speed, your home for FIA World Rally action. Bruno Junqueira has chosen not to take off his helmet. Now let's go to Calvin Fish with Derek Walker.
Well, Tora Takagi is having a great weekend here. 4th fastest yesterday, 6th this morning. Slight problem with the brakes right now. They're looking inside the footbox, trying to identify that. A little bit of a soft pedal. But Derek, yesterday Tora had a faster lap and ran out of gas there. You guys really cussed it fine. You really think those last couple of pounds make a difference in performance?
Well, they do. Unfortunately, we didn't run the backup car long enough to get a real good calibration on the fuel consumption. So it can catch you out sometimes, but we think the car's pretty good. So if we get a clean run this morning, I think we should be able to do it this afternoon.
You've always said that he's a very brave driver, and on some of the technical circuits he tends to struggle a little bit. How would you classify Montreal?
Well, I think it's his kind of track. What the challenge is for the team is he's probably one of the few drivers that really drives the car in deep, and that really asks a lot from the car. So the guys have been working really hard to give him a car that'll turn when you drive it in that deep. And you certainly do a lot of it here.
All right, Derek, good luck this afternoon.
Thanks.
Derek?
I'm going to creep in here and try and get a word with Patrick Carpentier. He's just on the radio. Patrick, I know your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody's here trying to will you on. Can you put this player's car on the front row, maybe?
We're going to try very hard. We seem like we've improved since yesterday, and you forgot my cousins are here too. So we'll see what's going to happen. Hopefully we can do that for them.
Did CART give you enough extra tickets for all those family members?
Yeah, yeah, they gave me quite a few tickets, and we used them all.
Thank you, Patrick. Scott?
We're having a look right here at the front brake on Oriol Servia's car, 6th quick this morning. Oriol doing a terrific job just stepping in. This will be his 4th race. 6th quick this morning, but they had some sort of front brake vibration. They came in, changed both front rotors, and now he's just sitting, waiting to get going for qualifying. Guys?
All right, thanks very much, Scott. I'm surprised this is an FIA quality circuit for the Formula One World Championship, but it is surprisingly bumpy in some areas, particularly the hard braking for that hairpin at the far end of the track. We're moments away from the start of qualifying, and we'll be right back. Here on the Toyota Atlantic Championship Trail, this was Toronto, where Doricat teammates Luis Diaz and John Fogerty got together in the most spectacular way. And then at Cleveland, Alex Figge and Roger Yazakawa, with innocent bystander Sepp Koster also involved. Fortunately, after both of those incidents, everybody was left standing. The championship is on the line here in Montreal. Will it be John Fogerty or will it be Michael Valiente? Tune in for live coverage of round 11 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's a look at the qualifying. John Fogerty starts P1, picking up a championship point that keeps him within 14 of Michael Valiente, who got the provisional pole point yesterday. Fogerty will try to keep Valiente behind him and extend the championship to the season finale next week in Denver. See if he can do it. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live Toyota Atlantics here on Speed Channel. We are now green for our 35 minutes of qualifying. We are just over 2 minutes into the session. There is Jimmy Vasser thinking things over. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Well, Jimmy is a past winner here in Atlantic back in '91, but JV, the important thing is this weekend you found some speed overnight, 5th fastest this morning. Is the car a lot better?
We took on new tires in practice. I'm not sure everybody did. I think the car's a bit better, but you know, still not perfect. I think
I think we have a good chance of moving up today. I think my teammate Jourdain had some real good sections this morning, so I think he's capable of putting together a real good lap, so it'll be good for him to qualify well here this weekend.
Toyota dominated yesterday's qualifying session, I believe, taking the top 5 spots, Jimmy, and I know you and the Ford guys have been working hard with the traction control. Did you make any progress with that since yesterday?
Yeah, we did. We made little bits here and there. It's hard to tell if it's still, as good as the Toyota guys, but all we can do is focus on our own stuff, and I think we're making it better.
All right, mate, go get him.
Thanks.
Let's go down to Derek.
Thank you, Calvin. I'm with a good friend of mine here who was a friend for many, many years. Of course, he's the owner of Tony Kanaan's car, the Pioneer Lola. The reason he's such a good friend, Mo gave me my Grand Prix debut back in Formula One in 1978. And Mo, I'm sure you remember the first Canadian Grand Prix that was held here. I know you know that Gilles Villeneuve won it, but I'm sure you remember for other reasons.
Well, 78, let me think. I think we had a great driver in 78. His name escapes me a little bit, but it'll come back. It began with a D. It was you. I remember now. Yes, it was you.
And we had that was an unusual time. Mo Nunn was known as No Mun because it was always a struggle to get the money to go to the next race. But I didn't realize, Mo, at that time, the significance of the World Championship point, which was my first point, but the significance to you and to the team for the travel money for the following year for Formula One.
That's right, yeah. The reason we had no money in those days, the drivers used to have these incredible fees they wanted. So, but anyway, yes, Derek, we owe it to you for that. The point gave us, put us in 10th position in the championship and gave us all our travel expenses for the following year.
Now, Mo, it was a struggle back then. Do you still enjoy it today like you did back then because you're back in the team ownership role, having been such a successful engineer, winning all those championships with Ganassi?
Yeah, it's, we'd like car to succeed, and coming back here obviously brings back memories. Those days, I mean, the race was in October, freezing cold, so this is much more enjoyable. But yeah, in answer to your question, yeah, I still enjoy it. But I could play golf as well, so...
Are you still as stubborn as you were back in those days?
No, much, much easier.
Thanks, Mo. For me, it was great memories. It was a great day, and very fond memories for so many great reasons. Fellas?
Now, you had a shot of the profile, or the back profile of Mo Nunn. And that story took place last night. I left the party and went out to dinner with Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, and Oriol Servia, and we went to Jacques Villeneuve's restaurant, Newtown here, which is a very happening spot. And we went up to our table, and Jimmy walked up behind Mo Nunn and started tickling his ear. And Mo turned around, and it wasn't Mo.
Mo embarrassment for Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy's trying to explain to this gentleman why he was tickling his ear.
Just one of the highlights of Derek Daly's Formula One career with Mo and with the Tyrrell team. Let's take a look back at Double D in action. The Italian Grand Prix 1978. There goes that famous arrow on the helmet of Derek Daly. The Austrian Grand Prix at the mighty Österreich ring in Zeltweg. That rear wing flopping around. Of course, one of the more famous crashes in Grand Prix history came in Monaco, starring our own Derek in the Tyrrell.
Always wanting the spotlight, our Derek Daly.
That one just went on and on and on. Or how about this get-off? Zeltweg.
Through the cornfields.
Off into the woods.
Derek, Derek said that was the second of his 9 lives that he used up. When the car came to rest, you said there was a string of barbed wire strung behind the roll hoop?
Actually, that year, 1980, was a complete disaster. I'm not surprised Ken Tyrrell fired me. It was accident after accident. The interesting thing with Austria, I was blamed right up until the time they rolled the car onto the transporter and they realized the right front brake disc was not connected to the wheel. That got me off the hook. But at Monaco, I was guilty. Guilty as charged.
Is the story behind the arrow on your helmet, did the crew put that there to tell you which way to keep it pointed?
Actually, no, that's a different story, which involves a Brazilian driver called Carlos Pache, who had a yellow and black helmet with the arrow going the opposite way. And I like the color scheme. And people still remember to this day, Thomas.
Everybody always assumes that driver helmet schemes are based on some sort of spiritual reality when, in effect, Well, in reality, sometimes it's just because they like the colors and the pattern. There's Derek doing a little agricultural racing.
Well, well.
This week it's Montreal. Next week another first-time race, the Shell Grand Prix of Denver, round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Actually, it marks the return of the Champ Cars to Denver back in 1990 and 91. The series race there, Allenzer Jr. won both events. But this is an all-new course and an all-new location as the Champ Cars return to the Rocky Mountains. Be with us here on Speed Channel. Friday qualifying live August 30th, 4 p.m. Eastern. Kart Friday night from some delectable spot with Derek Daly hosting at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Saturday qualifying live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. The Toyota Atlantics wind up their season at 5:30 p.m. Eastern live. And then on Sunday, we'll go racing beginning with pre-race coverage at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. The race itself live only on Speed Channel at 3 o'clock. We are now 10 minutes, 15 seconds into this 35-minute qualifying session. The one car on track is Mario Dominguez, who immediately jumps to second on the speed charts, even though his lap was only 122.024, because thus far, he is the quickest man on day 2. While he drives, here's Scott Pruitt.
A quick update on Scott Dixon. They're having a problem with the third to fourth shift like we talked about earlier. I talked to the team. They said there's something wrong with the shift pot. We're not really sure what it was, but we're going in, we're changing the gear, working very, very hard. A lot of pieces in the back of this car. We got to change the gear. We got to change the dog. As far as his teammates, they're running very good, very pleased with the car. Just sitting here with new Bridgestone tires on it. Kenny Brack and Bruno Junqueira both very pleased with the car and that little warm-up session they had. But what's amazing to me is the fact that even though Kart has changed their qualifying rule, and they did this because of the fans, because they wanted to see cars on track, we're still sitting here waiting for guys to go on track. And the common complaint yesterday was, I can't get a clear lap. I keep getting caught up in traffic. Calvin?
Scott, we keep comparing the differences between F1 and kart here in Montreal. Big difference in the brakes, of course. Formula One are allowed carbon fiber brakes on the road courses. Kart are not. This is cast iron brakes. The rotors on kart are actually a little bit bigger, about 12.9 inches, about 1 inch bigger than an F1 brake. Big difference here is that kart are allowed multiple pad setups. Instead of just having one pad on each side of this caliper, they're allowed multiple pads. Some of the teams even run 6 pads per caliper. Here we see an 8-piston setup. Differential boring here for the leading edge of the pad, so the pressure is equal on each pad here. So eight pistons in each caliper, 4 pads in each caliper. And the real key is the leading edge of the pad. The more edges you have on the pad, the more bite you get on the brake pedal. And that's something that the drivers and the teams really play with. Sometimes a better pressure on the brakes is not really a good thing. It's really just all about feel. You don't want to be locking the brakes up if you have too much braking force coming into some of these corners. Cost on this stuff, about $3 grand for the pads and rotor setup. These calipers, very special metal used here, $6 grand a piece. I spoke to the PFC guys, Performance Friction. They said the teams will typically go through 2 to 3 sets of rotors every weekend. So about 30 grand for the complete kit, and they throw these parts away every weekend. Let's go back up to Bob.
As my crew chief used to say, when someone says, how much are those brake rotors? He says, they're free. We just go in the truck and get them out of the drawer.
While the car owner rolls his eyes. On board with Alex Tagliani. And listen to the crowd. And here's Paul Tracy on the backside.
And talking about the braking, the feel, the modulation is very important. But again, at the high speeds, when you jump on the brakes, with all the download on the car, you almost cannot get enough mechanical assist to lock the brakes. So you can't get to peak braking generally in the real. You're close to being able to. But so what I used to always look for, and what a lot of these guys do, is how quickly you can ramp up to maximum clamping, because at the high speeds you want to take max advantage of that downforce and extra grip to get the bleed off the speed as quickly as possible.
Paul Tracy in the hairpin. Get ready for the long blast up the Casino Straight to the braking area for the right-left flick and onto the start-finish straightaway.
Now Paul sets up for this corner differently than everybody else. Watch, he's not right on the left edge. He's usually about 4 feet off. Right when he approaches, he's pretty close. That was more like 2 feet. On his quick lap this morning, he was offset about 4 feet from the left edge, and that's kind of personal preference. Obviously, it hurts him on the radius entering the corner, but maybe he found that it was slightly smoother if he offset you know, sometimes you get what's called like a wagon wheel, like tracks. It's very subtle, but it can actually make the car dart around. Canada Corner at Elkhart Lake is that way. And so again, wherever the car is the most settled is where you'll want to brake.
2 laps in, a 124.621 for Paul Tracy. He was complaining this morning that the car and the tires weren't coming up to speed quickly enough, that it was taking him to the 4th or 5th lap. That's going to put him in traffic because a lot of cars are headed for the track right now. That helps explain why he was out so early. On board now with Christian Fittipaldi. Scott Pruitt has more on the Newman-Haas situation.
Following up on both those cars, Christian Fittipaldi and Cristiano D'Amata both were very happy with the cars as they rolled out in that 15-minute session. Christian decided to go a little bit earlier than Cristiano, basically because Cristiano's in the catbird seat. He is sitting on pole right now, provisional pole that is. And he was very, very pleased, very fast this morning on a set of scrub tires from qualifying yesterday. Most of the rest of the teams went out on stickers this morning to generate their fast lap, so Cristiano is in a very good position right now. And Christian, well, they're following the lead of Cristiano. A few of the changes they made on the car were the exact same that Cristiano made earlier today. Guys?
This is through 3 and 4. There's that wicked fast turn 5. Olivier Pantis broke his leg in a Ligier years ago.
And that brake zone is where Alex Tagliani had his problem yesterday.
To the Cannon Bridge, here comes turn 8 and 9, and then the blast up to the hairpin. Yesterday I joked around, this was called Le Pingle. Of course it's not. Anybody who knows French knows it's pronounced Ipingle.
I didn't want to correct you on that yesterday, Bob.
Actually, I think I still got it wrong. It's Ipingle. I think they just pronounce it like it's spelled. Michel Jourdain Jr. has now gone to the top of the second-day charts at 120.276. Now Dario Franchitti. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Moments ago, this was Dario Franchitti bouncing over the curbs. Remember, he said the car's reaction to the curbs was the problem he's been having.
That's in turn 1. Everybody's using that curb, but he was solidly over the curb and hooking the wheel through the grass. You can see how it upsets the car.
Welcome back to the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve, Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, and Calvin Fish with you. This is Kenny Brack, 3rd quickest yesterday for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. He's currently 4th. One of the few drivers who has not yet improved on yesterday's performance at 119.873. Let's see how he takes turn 1. Yeah, you see he hardly got it up on the curbs at all. A long blast down the backside, and we've had a change at the top. Bruno Junqueira, fastest lap of the weekend, 119.446. You'll see the names in the top 10 at the left of your screen changing, along with the time remaining in the session.
You saw Michael Andretti limping around there, looking obviously for one of those safe havens. He's way back in 15th, but I'm sure he doesn't want to go back to 17th. Safe havens being a place where they can pull off and they'll be guaranteed not to cause a red flag.
Now, moments ago, there is Michael, couldn't find a place. Didn't see any smoke from the engine cover. This will surely bring out a red flag. He's down in the hairpin area, I think. No, he's not. He's actually
That's in 5.
Turn 5, you're right.
Where Panini had his accident in F1 and broke his legs, as you mentioned earlier.
The yellow arrow on the active top 10 means that that driver is in the pit lane. There's Oriol Servia going slowly and smoking from the back of the Vistion car. Servia currently 13th, but he has been quick all weekend. He was 6th in qualifying yesterday, ran very well this morning. There's Christian Fittipaldi. Now the red flag.
Carter, if you happen to see any more.
Servia's made the pit lane. The order is Junqueira, D'Amata, Carpentier, Dixon, and Vassar. Now, because it's a 35-minute session with 30 minutes of guaranteed green flag time. Ooh, oh, so that's painted line. I thought there was fluid coming out the back. We have 5 minutes to give, so to speak, without extending the far end of the session. About 13 minutes, 40 seconds to go. Now that Servia is parked in his pit box, here's Calvin Fish.
Get a chat here with Jim McGee. We saw some oil smoke from the back of the car, and sometimes with a Toyota you run a pretty high oil level, Jim, but it seems to be a bigger problem.
Yeah, it does. Looks like we lost one, but we had a couple of pretty good laps going there towards the end, but we got a good car for the race tomorrow, so we just go on. The Visteon guys are doing a great job, and hopefully tomorrow we can keep this thing up front.
You've been a big fan of Oriol for a number of years now, and he seems to really be performing and getting the chemistry together with you guys right now.
He really has. He's got the right attitude, and he's also very helpful in his debriefs and his experience.
All right, mate. Thanks a lot. Let's go down to Scott.
Oh, quick update on Bruno Junqueira, currently quickest guy out there. He's pleased with the car, brought the car in, and put on a brand new set of Bridgestone tires. Now, only issue he has, he says, you know, the car's a little bit pushy right now. I just saw him put about a turn and a half of front wing into it. But overall, he's very pleased with the balance. Want to just bring the car back to him from mid to exit, just a little bit too much understeer, and see if they can do that with the front wing. Bob?
All right, thanks very much, Scott. You saw the numbers on Bruno Junqueira. There's Oriol Servia. I have to disagree with Jim McGee. He's done this more than I have, but Servia's now 13th. When we go green, he's going to start dropping. Welcome back in Montreal. Moments ago, this was Patrick Carpentier. Shinji Nakano on the road ahead of him, I believe, and Carpentier not a happy fellow.
But look even further ahead. The car in front of Nakano, which I can't make out, has gotten off it, and I think that's what Patrick responds to here. And he's so upset, gesticulating, that I think he might do the same thing to whoever it is behind him right here. Watch this. Oops, I'm gonna get out. Oh, he didn't.
Well, moments
he
after
moves
that,
to get out of the way, and then another car comes streaming by him.
Getting back to the traffic issue that we hear about week after week in practice. Still under red. Track cleanup going on following an engine meltdown in Oriol Servia's car. Michael Andretti was having problems moving slowly before he is out of the car. Calvin Fish has more.
Well, initially we heard it was a gearbox issue, but I just spoke to Kim Green to clarify because Michael drove the car back in and he said it's an over-rev situation, so it's very hard to miss a shift with one of these transmissions. There's something going on there, but they believe they've probably damaged the engine with the over-rev, so they're going to pull the backup car out. With just a few minutes left, this is really going to put a lot of pressure on Michael to get that car dialed in and get up to speed.
Boy, I guess that's going to put pressure on. Just a few minutes of time left to get that backup car up to speed. Of course, by pulling this car, they will not have an officially qualified car for the race until he gets that backup cooking. Michael's going to have his work cut out for him. Coming up tonight here on Speed Channel, a program note. The Core Off-Road Series coming to you from Bark River, Michigan. 1.5 mile track, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You'll see race 1, 10 p.m. Eastern race 2. Greg Kramer, Ricky Johnson, and Ken Stout on the coverage for you. Core Off-Road Series on Speed Channel tonight, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern. So looking good down in the players' pit area. Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, a quick follow-up on the Team Target cars. As far as Kenny Brack's concerned, can't get a clear lap. He's fighting that problem we continue to talk about. As far as his teammate is concerned, the other car, Scott Dixon, they did get the shifting problem resolved. There is no issue there. A new set of Bridgestone tires for both these cars, currently waiting to clean up on the track as we speak. And a quick little clip on Cristiano D'Amata. Can't get a clear lap on track. We got out there, got running, and unfortunately the red came out at just the wrong time. They've come in, they're sitting with wheels off. Going to put a new set of Bridgestones on as well. It's getting down to crunch time, guys. Not with 9 minutes left and the possibility of going red. This could be an interesting closer to this qualifying session. Guys?
And even with Carpentier having that trouble with Nakano, or the car in front of Nakano, he was able to hoist himself up into third at a 19.5, just about 5/100ths off of Junqueira and D'Amata.
9 minutes and 29 seconds of green flag time left when we go green. Bruno Junqueira tops the charts right now over Cristiano D'Amata. We'll be back, hopefully, to get a green flag as the cleanup continues here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Welcome back live to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and final qualifying for the Kart FedEx Championship Series Grand Prix of Montreal. I'm Bob Barta, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, Calvin Fish, all with you this weekend. An enormous stream of oil laid down by Oriol Servia on his way back to the pits means a lengthy cleanup. So we have a few spare minutes before we go green for something under 9.5 minutes of guaranteed green flag time. There's a look at the enormity of the cleanup going on. While we have this opportunity, let's take you back a week to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and the phenomenal weekend gone through by Tony Kanaan and the Mo Nunn Racing team. Began on Friday in practice when at top speed on the front straightaway, the rear wing support broke. Off went the airfoil, and away went the Brazilian into the gravel trap. There you see the broken part. A very scary moment for Kanaan. And then into his backup car. On Saturday, the engine let go. It led to a very frustrated Kanaan, who had some hard words about the level of preparation. On Sunday, he passed 6 cars on the first lap, worked his way all the way up from dead last in the field to 4th. A great result. Great turnaround by the Mo Nunn team. There's the car owner, Mo Nunn. His vast experience, Derek Daly spoke about earlier, talking with his man, Tony Kanaan, as we await the green flag to get us started once again in front of this massive crowd. Let's go down to Calvin Fish in the players' pit area.
Well, Alex Tagliani is talking to his engineer, Tony Sicali, and Tony's worked with a lot of great drivers over the years, really with calming influence on this French-Canadian. Balance of the car is pretty good. They're looking for more straightaway speed. They've actually trimmed the car out a little bit for this second run on the new tires, but pretty happy with the car thus far. 9th fastest. Teammate Patrick Carpentier, he's very happy with the balance there, but both cars are looking to try and reduce a little bit of understeer that they have in the tight hairpins. So that's the story down here with players right now, Bob.
All right, thanks very much. Been a big weekend for Alex Tagliani, introducing his new clothing line, but the racetrack has been another story entirely. This was his off down in the turn 5 area. A massive impact with the tire wall that cracked the tub. That car is destroyed. How about Paul Tracy coming up with a broken gear shift? No gears, no go. And then there was Patrick Carpentier in 9th in first round qualifying, the best of the Canadian group, but not without this pirouette that damaged his front ring. There is Paul Tracy. Scott Pruitt has more on the situation at Team Cool Green.
Thanks, Bob. Quick update on Dario. He's pretty happy with the car, as they put it. Still picking up a little bit too much understeer. They're going to make a wing change on that, trying to get a little bit more front grip. As for Paul, second quick this morning, but they've made a few little changes to the car, and with traffic, did not get a clear lap out there. He's pretty happy with the car. Again, they did make a slight change to the front and a slight change to the back. I believe it's some shock changes, even though they didn't tell me. I know they were in there working on them pretty hard earlier, trying to get a little bit better shock balance front to rear. But whatever the case, they're telling them, find your rhythm, find the hole, and rip one off. Guys?
You've got something under 9.5 minutes to do all that. We talk about they made some changes to the car. It's got to be incredibly frustrating for a driver when you have a great morning session like Paul Tracy did, challenging for best time in the session. Then you come out in the afternoon and you're struggling again. He is in 16th place and yet to improve on yesterday's disappointing lap at 120.982.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, but chances are that the car isn't too far off, and again, he hasn't been able to find a spot. And Paul gave us a really great insight, I think it was at Cleveland, in explaining all the factors they're trying to get to peak at the same time, and I related it to baking a souffle, and the tire temperatures and pressures, and getting those to peak at the exact time that the rubber also has a spike in grip, have that coincide with a clear spot on the track is very difficult to do. By looking at Bruno and Cristiano, they find a way to do it every weekend, which is all the more impressive. But as Paul said, it is not easy.
Look at that line of Speedy Dry out there right on the braking area. A at the fastest part of the racetrack for turn 12. Will this track be as quick as they want it to be when we get back? Hopefully, we're just a few moments from finding out. Welcome back. The cleanup continues here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as we await the end of live qualifying here on Speed Channel. Coming up later at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Will the Toyota Atlantic Championship be decided here in Montreal, or will it go on to the final race of the year in Denver? Find out. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on Speed Channel. Then tomorrow, it's all champ cars, beginning with the pre-race show at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, continuing with the race itself beginning at 2. So join us then. The Kart Simple Green safety team is still hard at work on the long Casino Straight. You see the jet dryer blowing off the speedy dry. Tommy, that's still got to be a bit of a tippy-toe situation when we go green.
Exactly, and you guys, everybody is puzzled when guys don't go out until the end of the session. Now there's an added factor. There are some guys who are going to say, I don't want to go out there. I want some guys to go out there and clean that off. So there might be even additional pressure. I'm not sure there's enough time to have that luxury. But if you had the choice, you'd rather let somebody go out there and be the track cleaner before you went out. Down to Scott Pruitt, who has a kind of very central figure in all the goings-on this weekend. Scott?
Clearly the favorite team here is players. And the owner of that team, Jerry Forsythe. Jerry, a lot of rumors going around your team with Paul and with Gilles Villeneuve, and where's Patrick going to end up? Could you shed a little light on all this for us?
Not at this time. We're looking at all options.
Now, I understand that Tagliani is signed. Is that true?
Yeah, yes, he has a contract.
And as far as you're going to run 1, 2 cars, 3 cars, rumor about that as well?
Depending on sponsorship.
He's not giving us much, guys. I'm not sure what to ask him here, but clearly the favorite team here this weekend, having a good run so far, and certainly the guys to watch as we move into the last minutes of qualifying. Calvin?
Well, the Motorola team have just warmed up Michael Andretti's car, and Kim Green, a bit of a panic there. Michael got back to the pits, and you're switching to the backup car. This red flag has certainly helped you out get the backup car ready. What sort of things do you have to switch over from the primary car?
Well, we try and keep both cars very, very equal, so all the gear ratios are the same, springs and shock settings. There's a couple of minor changes we made, which we won't be able to fix inside the transmission for this event, or for this session, so the backup car will be slightly different. We've already run the car yesterday, so it's all ready to run, and we're 16th overall, 18th in this session. We'll lose the fastest lap from this session, so we really don't have a lot to lose, and I think Michael can get it up. The track's got a lot more grip than yesterday, so hopefully we can gain some spots and give ourselves a reasonable starting position.
All right, mate, good luck for this one. Let's go down to Derek with, I believe, Bobby Rahal.
Indeed, we spoke earlier on about my exploits in Formula One in 1978. Bobby Rahal was also in that race. Bob, I believe it was the Walter Wolf's car.
Right. Yeah, it was WR1. I actually raced. I was practicing in WR5 and I crashed it in the rain, and they dragged WR1 out of the some hotel lobby, and threw it together. And actually, it was a pretty good car for here. We qualified, I think, 18th or 19th, but got up to around 9th or 10th, and then the fuel system packed up just from having sat around for a year or two. But it was a great event. Of course, Gilles Villeneuve's first win.
From what I remember, Bobby, you went from SCCA club racing to Formula One in a fairly rapid manner.
Well, I mean, when I look back, at the time I remember thinking it was taking me forever, but I look back, I was 25, which at that time was pretty young for Formula One, and I think I stopped racing SCCA in 75. So 3 years later, ran Atlantic and then Formula 3 in Europe, and so I look back now and it seemed like it was awfully fast.
I know Tom Blattler, public relations for Bobby, showed me a picture that Bobby has in one of his albums of me leading him in the Dutch race Formula 2 in 1979. But Bobby, let's talk about today. Jimmy and Michelle look actually quite good in the Higanti and the Shell cars.
Yeah, Jimmy's third quick so far in this session, 5th overall. It's close, so I mean, literally a 10th of a second, and he could be 8th or 9th right now. And so he hopefully will finish. He'll finish the qualifying run well. And Michelle has done well. He's, I think, about 10th or 11th right now. So for us, that's a big improvement as of late, but it's not over yet. And,
Bobby, when you look around to the grandstand opposite us and down into turn 1, I mean, are you surprised just the magnitude of the size of the crowd here?
No, because I'm pleased, obviously, but this is Canada. It's Montreal. It's a great circuit. The Canadian fans are great fans. Of course, there's probably a lot of people from the northeastern part of the states, but I was glad when we were able to sign this event up because I just knew that it would be a great one.
Thanks, Bobby. Best of luck for the rest of the weekend. Fellas?
Don't forget, Bobby Rahal was interim CEO of CART not too long ago, so he was in on the very early stages of the agreement to bring the Champ Cars back to Montreal. As for drivers who visited this track before the Champ Cars arrived, 4 of them, Michael Andretti, Shinji Nakano, Christian Fittipaldi, and Toru Takagi, raced here in Formula One cars. Paul Tracy raced as a young man in Formula 4 2000. Jimmy Vasser, Alex Tagliani, and Patrick Carpentier not only raced Toyota Atlantics here, each of them won in those cars. Now let's get back down to the pit lane. Cars are now heading back out onto track. Here's Scott Pruitt.
Okay, guys, think about this. You got 9.5 minutes left. You may have 1 or 2 chances to get out there and rip a quick one off. How do you keep from getting caught up in traffic? If you're a driver, if you're a team owner, what are you going to do?
I think what really comes into play here is having good team management. You have to be patient here, even though there's only just over 9 minutes left. You have to be coy, you have to be cautious, you have to really find that spot on the racetrack. And what you'll see a lot of these team managers do is stand on this pit wall and watch the cars come down the front straightaway and be on the radio to their drivers saying, okay, this is the time to do it, or step back a little back and really try and find that clear lap. Let's go down to Derek.
Calvin, it doesn't matter what type of brilliant decisions management might make about the spot on the track if the track doesn't have enough grip. Everybody that I saw down my end of the pit lane is on brand new sticker tires, but the telltale is the fluid laid down by Oriol Servia, and all the kitty litter is going to slow the quest down to get into the 18s. Because remember, I was the one out on a limb yesterday that believed 118s was a reality for these Champ Cars here.
Well, we're about to find out as they bring the Bridgestone Potenza Racing radials up to temperature. We'll take a quick break and be back to see what we can do here in Montreal. Welcome back. We are with you to the end of qualifying here on Speed Channel. We have just over 5.5 minutes to go. Tommy Kendall, what's your take on what ought to transpire?
Well, in a weird way, the shortage of time actually will help the traffic problem because everybody has to go. You won't have guys going in and then cooling a lap and then going again. Everybody is out on the track going full steam for these last 5.5 minutes. Now, one of my favorite tricks is one that I saw Cristiano and Bruno Junqueira, the 2 best qualifiers in the series, employ. And you fight the urge to go out with all the other cars when everybody else is leaving the pit lane. They stay there, their guys time it, and when the other guys are coming out of the hairpin, they release those 2 guys. So they'll pretty much have their part of the track to themselves.
We're on board with Patrick Carpentier. You saw the speedy dry on the ground. Didn't seem to affect him much. Here comes out, this is Carpentier down into 1. The active top 10 on your left. That will change as the drivers shuffle their way around in the top 10. If a driver pits, a yellow arrow will come up next to him. But with now coming up on 4.5 minutes to go in this green flag session, I don't think you'll see anybody pitting. 15 laps, no driver close to using up his lap allotment yet.
I think we caught the tail end of Bruno going on and off. You see D'Amata, little glimpses of D'Amata just a little ways, up the road from Bruno.
Moving around a little bit there. Chip Ganassi is with the NASCAR Winston Cup Series this weekend at Bristol Motor Speedway for that race going on tonight. We expect to see him back here tomorrow for the Grand Prix of Montreal.
And I think Cristiano probably tried to outweight Bruno there, and the tables are kind of turned. Cristiano's always been the guy who had the last lap in the bank, was the last on the track. Now Bruno is behind Cristiano, so Cristiano, when they get to their best, I think this is in the
8 and 9 area. Michael went off here yesterday.
Doc Dixon went off there twice.
Ooh, right him, cowboy. Wow.
What I was saying is he will have the chance. Cristiano will put his best number up, but Bruno will have a chance to come to the line after Cristiano. After that little bit of buck and bronco action, I'm not sure he's going to be real settled down. So Cristiano might be the guy in the catbird seat. Scott, you have more on Bruno?
Bruno actually just called in and said, hey, there's some animal on the track. And I don't think he was talking about somebody driving one of those champ cars either.
Oh, my. Well, there are a lot of large rodents, I believe, as Dario Franchitti just goes to P1 at 19.375. I think they're called marmots, and they are everywhere here on the island. Let's see what Cristiano D'Amata does this time by. Adrian Fernandez behind him badly needs to move up. He's 17. Nope, D'Amata 119.396.
He improved, but not enough, and Bruno goes to P1. Look at that 10 jump around.
119.347 for Junqueira, who already has poles this year on the oval at Motegi, Japan, and the road course at Road America last week.
Obviously that off didn't affect the car at all for Bruno.
D'Amata wrestling that Lola Toyota around on the backside. Here's Bruno off 13. Let's see if he can improve. I'm sorry, Kenny Brack. And he has not improved yet. In fact, he hasn't even beaten yesterday's time yet at 119.873. We now have 10 drivers in the 119 zone. Nobody in the 18s yet. Coming up on 1:30 to go. There is Michael Andretti, currently last. His best, 121.670. Dario Franchitti goes back to the top, 119.334. Here comes Cristiano, who is a master at getting in the late lap. D'Amata to the top at 119.139. You hear the air horns in the grandstand. Everybody here in Montreal getting into the closing moments of this qualifying session. Here comes Scott Dixon, second quick yesterday. Absolutely brutal in the morning session. Still unable to improve. He's currently 5th. Oh, and Michael has spun.
Fluid coming out the back.
It's like they will let this.
That's out of the way. That's on the inside of the hairpin.
There you see him, just on the exit for the hairpin. I wonder if he left any of that fluid on the line at the apex of the hairpin.
What position are we in?
The answer, Michael, is 18th. On board with Carpentier. This is his last gasp. He will not get back to the flag before the checkers wave. But there are cars still on a hot lap behind him. D'Amata to 119.117 with laps still in hand. Checkered flag waves. But these hot laps will count. Dixon is in the pits. Here comes Carpentier. Currently 4th. And that's where he stays. No improvement, a 119.781. Bit of lockup there from Jimmy Vasser down in the hairpin. There is Dario Franchitti. Franchitti currently 2nd. Does he have something in store here? No, he heads for the pit lane. He'll be content with a front row spot if he can hang on to it. Vasser crosses the line with an improvement to 119.704, jumps up 2 spots to 6th. Can D'Amata improve on his current pole time? Yes, into the 18s we go. 118.959. This guy is amazing. With only 10 of his allowable 15 timed laps, D'Amata has turned several laps quicker than anybody else. His 6th pole of the season.
and his 6th of his career.
The first one came on the road course at Laguna Seca. Took the one the following week in Portland. Then 3 in a row at Toronto, Cleveland, and Vancouver. And now here in Montreal. In the Haviland Toyota Lola from Newman Haas Racing. Cristiano D'Amata is on the short list for any number of Formula One teams. And he is definitely writing a ticket to his own future that looks remarkably like a blank check, I have a feeling. Let's take a look at the unofficial results as D'Amata makes his way to the pit lane. We'll be with you for as long as we can to hear from our pole sitter. Cristiano D'Amata into the 18s, followed by Dario Franchitti, Bruno Junqueira, and Patrick Carpentier. Kenny Breck in 5th. Jimmy Vasser jumped up to 6th. Scott Dixon was 2nd yesterday, 7th today. Alex Tagliani was last yesterday. He is now 8th, followed by Shinji Nakano and Paul Tracy. All 3 Canadians in the top 10. 11th through 18th, Christian Fittipaldi will be bitterly disappointed. Toru Takagi, the last of 12 drivers to break 1 minute 20 seconds. Followed by Tony Kanaan, Oriol Servia, who stopped at 14th in his free fall after losing the engine. Then Michel Jourdain Jr., Adrian Fernandez, Mario Dominguez, and unfortunately Michael Andretti. To Derek Daly.
And the celebrations here, Carl Haas is with Cristiano D'Amata after that phenomenal run. Cristiano, I know we have hardly any time here, but that was an exceptional. Chris, how quickly can we get this off? That was just an exceptional run. We stood here with all of his mechanics as they unfolded, as the laps unfolded, and I think it even surprised the mechanics who expect the unexpected from Cristiano. Cristiano, that was a phenomenal set of laps towards the end.
I had a pretty good run. I was very fortunate that I didn't get any traffic in my run. I was able to negotiate. The only guy I got behind was Fernandez, but he moved away. I actually have to thank him for that. Then I had clear laps. Everything was nice. No traffic. Car was handling good. I was able to get into some good momentum. And it was perfect. You know, the qualifying run I think everybody dream of.
Thank you, Cristiano. You saved my bacon. I'll tell you why later on. Dario, down to Dario.
Well, big surprise. See Dario on the front row. You weren't happy with the car after practice, suffering from straight line speed, but it all came together for you, mate. Great run.
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. We just, you know, we got the car kind of like the thing. It's pretty hard. You know, you got to be as greedy as you can on the curbs there, try and run as much speed, but sometimes you get a bit too greedy. But I managed to tie one together there, and I'm obviously pretty happy to be on the front row.
Superb lap from Dario Franchitti and his team. Let's go back to Bob.
All right, thanks very much, guys. We're a little bit pressed for time. Phenomenal effort from Cristiano D'Amata and Dario Franchitti, who will start from the front row in tomorrow's race. Don't forget, coming up at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live coverage of the next to last round of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. So stand by for that. And then tomorrow, time for the Champ Cars and their inaugural visit to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Our pre-race show begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The race itself at 2. Tommy Kendall, your final thoughts.
Well, those two guys, again, Cristiano and Bruno, put that technique to good effect there at the very end. And even Dario, I don't think it's sunk in what he's just done, but he's put himself in with a chance. The winners have been coming from the first 3 spots. So Dario, I think when he reflects on that, he'll be pretty tickled going into tomorrow.
Be sure to join us tomorrow for our live coverage of the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Until then, for Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Scott Pruitt, I'm Bob Barsha. So long for now from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.